Hello everyone, and welcome to this video. In today's video we're going to be reviewing Saints Row 4, Game of the Century Edition. This game is the complete package edition and comes with all the DLC included. The game was released in 2013 and is by Deep Silver. So, is this game any different from Saints Row 3 or not? Like what a lot of people complained about upon release. Let's find out, shall we? The game's story is meant to take place a few years after the events of Saints Row 3, and your character is now the President of the United States of America. Things seem to be running smoothly, but then aliens show up and attack the White House and take everyone hostage. It's at this point that the usual Saints Row humour goes into overdrive and essentially steals the plot from the Matrix. You and millions of other users are now trapped inside a virtual world, and just like in the Matrix, your friends come to break you out and get attacked by alien swarms. Eventually, you get on board your own spaceship and have to travel back into the Matrix world in order to cause chaos, for various reasons. You find that you now have superpowers, such as the ability to run super fast and also jump from building to building, and do the odd firing fireballs, such as Hadoukens, and various other things. The game's story only gets more wacky as you progress, stealing various stuff from other games and having a laugh with it. While playing the game's story, there's a lot to try and see if you can catch, such as Mass Effect references, Star Fox one-liners, and Knights of the Old Republic. Oddly. Yeah, there's lots to see if you can try and catch in this game. The game's story is actually rather good, and I enjoyed it a hell of a lot. It doesn't take itself seriously, yet can manage to be extremely funny and enjoyable at the same time. And it's able to string together everything perfectly into a good story, with good characters and good gameplay. It's not to be taken seriously, but it's still a great story. Character-wise, you play as the main character, who is now the President of the United States. But considering how the world ends up being ruled by aliens, that's not so important anymore. You then get the crew from the previous games making a return in this game, such as Kenzie, Shondi, and various others. Most of the time, you're basically on your own, however, unless of course you're playing the game in co-op with someone else, who will play as their own created character, or on a rare occasion, you might have Kenzie or one of the others join you depending on what mission you're doing, but that's pretty much it. Mostly, the rest of the cast in the game are just background characters and background noise, who are there to either provide support for you or join you on a mission, depending on what that mission is. Most of the time, your only real interactions are when you return to the ship and talk to others, or oddly try to romance them. But character-wise, you basically get all the characters from Saints Row 3 make a return here, but don't really do very much. The game's gameplay itself is exactly the same as in Saints Row 3, yet now with superpowers, everything changes. You end up being able to run faster than the vehicles, so it kind of makes the use of the vehicles in the game almost seem pointless. For example, why would you steal a car and drive it from point A to point B, which takes longer than it would if you could just use your super run ability or jump from building to building and glide there? This is one of the things people originally were complaining about, because it does make the use of vehicles seem a tad pointless. That being said, however, I still find myself using them in the game, as I did like being able to take them to a vehicle shop and mod the cars like I did when I took them to rim jobs. I still used vehicles from time to time, but I did find myself using the superpowers more because honestly I just found them a lot more fun to use. Using the vehicles in the game is still fun for me and I still did do it, but honestly having the superpowers, I just basically focused on that more because it was just more fun to do. The superpowers themselves turn the game into a type of mock superhero game, but with that being the case, I still found I was really enjoying the game a lot more than I would with previous Marvel titles. The point is the game isn't meant to be taken too seriously, and with the gameplay you're just meant to enjoy yourself and go wild and have fun. It's a very different game to how Saints Row 3 was, and I think that originally might be what might have put a lot of people off. As far as what the gameplay offers you in terms of choice, well, you basically got everything from Saints Row 3 to begin with. This means you can go to various clothes stores and pick up new threads, go to rim jobs, mod a vehicle, go to a gun store, buy new weapons and various other things that you could do in Saints Row 3. That's all present here in Saints Row 4. However, Saints Row 4 offers you new clothing, obviously the superpowers which you gain as the story progresses, new vehicles, new DLC, new weapons, new items, and various other stuff here and there. It basically takes everything that Saints Row 3 does and adds to it. It doesn't really massively improve it, but it still adds to it, and it's still a fun experience. If we're going to be honest with the game's graphics, I really don't think they have improved on anything at all from Saints Row 3. They might have had a minor upgrade here and there, but it's not really that noticeable. The game's lighting itself may have had an upgrade, but again, it's really hard to tell. I think if anything, when it comes to the game's budget, I think they tried to save on quite a few pennies and just basically reused the engine and everything else from Saints Row 3 so that they could focus on the game's story and possibly a few other things. I'm not saying that the graphics are bad, because some section of the game where you interpole a giant energy drink monster, for example, actually look quite well done and are beautifully created. But then again, at the exact same time, when you look at the game in the daylight, the graphics do look very dated, and oddly even worse in the day than when you compare them to how they look at night with all the streetlights on. I do understand that the game was made in 2013, but it still feels as if the game's graphics got the short straw when it comes to the game being produced. I can't help but be curious how the game might have looked if Deep Silver had spent more money on trying to make the game look new and prettier than how it does now, because how it does now, it just doesn't look any different from Saints Row 3 at all. Now, this is the part that really has the biggest issue with the title, the environment. See, here's the problem with Saints Row 3's Games World. Sorry, I mean Saints Row 4's. As you've gathered, that's pretty much the problem. It's exactly the same as in Saints Row 3. It's basically the exact same map, but now being in a virtual world, a few things have changed, slightly. You now have a few taller buildings, the Saints Tower is gone, and a few other buildings are gone, and that's pretty much it. You do get the odd daytime events in the game. When you complete the game, you can also change the time of day at will, but as I've mentioned before, that does kind of seem rather pointless having that option once everything has been done, because there's not really any need to go back and do anything. There are a few alien buildings in places, and you now get alien bases around the city which you have to find and destroy, but essentially it's the exact same world which you explored in the third game. It's rather, well, it is actually quite a downer, as there really isn't many new places to explore in this new environment world that you've been put into. This is yet another thing which put quite a lot of people off with this game, because it's essentially recycling from the third game, and it's recycling quite a lot. While I don't agree with this, I haven't played Saints Row 3 for many years now, and when I played Saints Row 4, I honestly don't remember much about it at all. Now, that could be down to it not being very interesting or inspiring, but it could also just be that I haven't got a very good memory. I also think that because you now have superpowers in the game, you see the whole world map in an entirely different view, as you can do things in this game that you couldn't do in the third game. But that still being said, I do find it quite a downer that it is the exact same map from the last game. If you're going to buy this game, then I would recommend you only do it when this game is on sale. And if you are going to buy it, you get the Game of the Century Edition, because the base edition just isn't worth buying and then buying all the DLC, when just for a couple of bucks extra, you can get the Game of the Century Edition. At full price, the Game of the Century Edition is fun, but it is short-lived, and the story itself is much like Saints Row's 3 story and is very short. That's why I would recommend you only get the game when it's on sale. I only got around 40 hours out of Saints Row 3, and I was taking my time with that one. With Saints Row 4, the story oddly feels much shorter to me when it's actually longer, and I completed this in a much quicker time as well. Again, I'm not sure if this is because now you have superpowers, you can do everything quicker, or if it's just because the game does actually feel shorter. The game usually comes on sale now since it's a good few years old, and if you're lucky you can get the game for around $4.99 or less, depending on where you are. For that price, you can't really go wrong, because while the game does have quite its faults, it's still a very enjoyable game. The game is far from perfect, but I still find myself enjoying this game a lot more than I did with something like Sleeping Dogs, which just annoyed the hell out of me. And while I do rather have quite a few complaints about the game, the fact that you can now add mods into it adds so much more to it. You can now add characters such as Bowsette, which has been shown in this video, Venom from the Spider-Man series, Deadpool, and a whole host of other characters. It just helps add more to the game and make it a little more enjoyable. And for me, it adds a whole new element that wasn't there before. It is a good game, but it is very short. It's a lot like a cheesy movie that you like to watch, that no one else likes to watch. That's short, funny, and enjoyable, but it's never going to be a masterpiece. And that's what this game was passed off as when it first came out. They were claiming it was a AAA title, when it just basically reused everything from Saints Row 3 and added a bit to it. It's not a perfect game, but it's still fun and enjoyable, even though it is short-lived. I just wish that Deep Silver hadn't cut a lot of corners with this game, but I would recommend it, just only if it's on sale. Well, that's it for this review guys, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.